So let's have a conversation about how to self-dispatch for your cargo van or your sprinter van business. So step number one, you need to develop a clear agenda. So when we talk about developing a clear agenda, you got to have a clear idea of how you want to organize your day. See, the whole thing is that when you self-dispatch versus when you have a dispatch service, you are on your own, right? You got to take care of a lot of things, and you have to make sure that all of those things they actually come in sync together. So you got to think about available slot for load hauling. You got to find those. You got to think about vehicle maintenance dates. This is really important because those have regulatory implications. You got to think about your DMV compliance calendar. So if you are hauling very specific materials, especially when those substances are federally regulated, you got to maintain a specific DMV compliance calendar. You got to really actually also carve out time for admin work. So I'm talking about back office things like accounting, things like business licenses and permits and whatnot. Those are really important to see. It's one of those things when you don't do them, you get in trouble. You might be thinking, well, this is little stuff, but that little stuff, if you don't do it, you get in trouble. You got to also carve out time for interaction with customers. Remember, when you're self-dispatching, this doesn't mean that you are just looking for the loads and think about hauling those loads. You got to interact with customers, because if you are trying to increase your customer loyalty rate in the long run, you got to interact. And most importantly, you also need to have time for load search. So I'm talking about going load boards. You got to interact with freight brokers, dispatchers. You got to find other ways. So the whole thing is that if you are trying to self-dispatch, this requires a level of organization that is not really that complicated. It just needs discipline and what we call constant planning. You have to constantly plan. Now the thing is that self-dispatching overall is important and is valuable, because if you can do it right, you can save a lot of time and money, because you're not really actually paying a third party to take care of your dispatch for you. You're getting all the cash. Okay, if you are very efficient, this actually could increase your revenue in the long run. But the thing is, you can't just get into it without preparation. So planning is quite essential. The second thing I want you to do, so first thing, you need to develop a clear agenda. Second thing is you need to choose dispatch software. By the way, welcome back to the show. It's really a pleasure to have you here. So we're having a quick conversation about how to self-dispatch for your cargo van or your sprinter van or other type of owner-operator business anyway. So choosing dispatch software is kind of quite essential too. Why? Because the thing is, when you start, right, if you start your cargo van or your sprinter van business, if you're having a small operation, that's fine. You can actually get away with you don't need a dispatch software. But if your business sort of expands, if you're having a lot of clients, you're having a lot of loads to deal with, you can't do those things manually. It becomes complicated, because the thing is that you have to take care of the clients, the loads. You got to take care of the timing. You got to take care of the delivery. There is a constellation of things that get into play that if you don't have help, because remember, you're doing things by yourself. If you don't have some kind of help, this will be very overwhelming for you. So when we talk about dispatch software is kind of cool because it does create some kind of efficiency for your business. You will make more money, you will have more time, and you actually will have time to go home, to see your family, wife or husband and whatnot, to your kids. So it's all about maintaining a work-life balance. That's so important in the long run. So when we talk about dispatch software, there are some features that are really important that you need to pay attention to. Things like employee scheduling, load scheduling. You have a GPS tracking, mobile first capabilities. You need to have a software tool that allows you to send and receive reports in real time from the field. You got to think about streamlining your driver versus client communication. You got to have a software tool that allows you to have easy task management. Think about compliance through read and sign forms. Okay, a software tool that allows you to increase your driving safety markers. So those are really important. And the thing here is that at the end of the day, you might be thinking those things are not important, but they are so important because they save you time and money in the long run. They actually also help you increase revenue, as I just said. Step number 3. Again, I just want to quickly remind you of today's conversation. We're talking about how to do dispatch for yourself. So step number 1, you want to develop a clear agenda. Step number 2, you want to choose dispatch software. And we actually have a show, we have a video that actually talks about dispatch software, the best one for you. If you're interested, just drop us a comment below. We'll certainly send you the link to that video, or you can just go back to our catalog of videos and you can search for the best dispatch software for cargo van and sprinter van drivers. So step number 3, you want to use mapping software to optimize routes. The thing here is that when we talk about cargo van, especially when we talk about self-dispatching, you really have to pay attention to route optimization. The reason is that every second, every minute, every hour that you actually lose on the road, you're actually losing money. Remember, there are some loads, there are some clauses, there are some conditions that said, well, if you don't deliver this load on time, we actually will penalize you. I mean, most of our clients have those clauses. Our clients don't like that, but that's what the shippers want. Okay, so the thing here is that if you have those sort of clauses in your contract, you have to make sure that you optimize your routes. Okay, so you want to use mapping software to develop routes. So the thing here is that you have to plan the route. You need to consider customer schedules, road conditions, and loading and unloading times, because the ultimate goal for you is to have the most efficient route. Okay, so with this kind of software, you're able to track route progress in real time. You can share live tracking to reduce route inquiries. You can respond rapidly to changing conditions. You can improve your service and bottom line. You can sync your route planning and TMS tools. You can install your hardware in minutes. So those things in aggregate are very important. Okay, so mapping software, and the cool thing is that dispatch software sometimes incorporates mapping capabilities. So you don't have to buy it, you don't have to subscribe to different categories of software. You can have if you have the right dispatch software, you basically also have mapping software integrated into the mapping software. Now you have mapping software integrated into the dispatch software. That's what I meant. Step number 4, you need to plan loads. Boss, I'm still having a conversation with you about how to do dispatch for yourself. So number 1, you want to develop a clear agenda. Number 2, you need to choose dispatch software. Number 3, you need to use mapping software to optimize routes. Number 4, you need to plan loads. And the thing here is that when we talk about planning loads, I'm not just talking about you knowing where you're going, you knowing the load you're carrying, you knowing what kind of stuff you're delivering. Yeah, that's important too. But there is an entire formula. There's an entire set of principles that comes with load planning. So when we talk about load planning, we're talking about making sure that you are maximizing the capacity of the vehicle you're driving. See, the whole thing is that every inch, every part of your cargo van or sprinter van should be optimized. You want to actually you want your vehicle to be loaded, not overloaded. This is important. Loaded at capacity, so that you're not actually over the board in terms of weight, because you don't want to endanger yourself. You don't want to actually risk some safety issues here. No. So the thing is, you want to actually load your van to the maximum capacity allowable under the law. Okay, and it's important. So you want to maximize the capacity of your vehicle. You want to comply with regulation, all kinds of regulations at the state level, but also at the federal level. This is really important. You are able to also cut unnecessary costs. Okay, and you need to also create some kind of productive partnerships with other players in the industry. But the thing is that we have an entire video that will talk about load planning, because it's a very interesting aspect of self-dispatching or dispatching through a third party. So load planning, there are people who actually have a full-time job planning loads. And you might be thinking, well, why do I have to plan loads? I mean, I'm just picking up a load. I'm just driving to the customer's destination. And that's kind of straightforward. Yes, it is straightforward if you only have 1 or 2 or 3 clients. When you start, it's pretty straightforward. But after 1 year in the industry, after 2 years, after 3 years, when you start having a diversity of clients with multiple goals and multiple, I would say, exigencies, multiple conditions, you're gonna have to need some kind of planning. Otherwise, you'll be overwhelmed big time. I mean, big time. Listen, trust me on that. We've been actually in this industry for 40 years. We have expertise. We've been dealing with clients who have tried all kinds of scenarios. And the bottom line is you have to invest in load planning. Step number 5. So if you want to do dispatch for yourself, you need to find a way to resolve logistical problems quickly. By the way, I want to quickly remind you again of today's conversation. We are talking about how to self-dispatch the right way, the mistakes you should avoid, the best practices. Okay, so what do I mean by resolving logistical problems quickly? Well, the thing here is that as you are engaged in self-dispatching, as you are engaged in loading and unloading and all that kind of stuff, things happen. Okay, as a delivery driver, you might encounter delays and other issues while completing your route, which can lead to scheduling conflicts, right? Dispatchers, if you are self-dispatching, you need to actually anticipate those safety problems. You need to anticipate things like construction, weather, and heavy traffic. This is what we call the trifecta. This is actually the important trifecta you always have to think about: construction, weather, and heavy traffic. So you got to find a way to actually resolve those logistical problems in a very, very rapid manner. You can use GPS, you can do route optimizing, you can do load planning, you can use a constellation of other applications to evaluate the severity and the purpose of those obstacles. But most importantly, you need to suggest alternative routes or other solutions. The thing is, if you're doing self-dispatching, you got to plan those things while you're sitting in your office or while you're sitting in your van before starting the whole trip. Okay, and so there are common logistical problems on the road. Things happen. You might also have some warehouse management errors. So those warehouse management errors typically come from the clients, so the shipper here, and people. We live in a world where you have humans, and humans are not perfect. Things happen. So you might have some errors at the warehouse in terms of inventory. They give you the wrong load, or they give you the wrong pallet, or they give you the wrong substance, whatever it is. You might have some delivery delays that don't depend on you. Sometimes you can do your best to deliver the load on time, but stuff happens. But the whole thing is about communication. You got to communicate with the clients. Now, sometimes you might have to deal with extra transportation costs, like you basically thought that this load will actually cost you that much, and then some stuff happens and you end up spending more money. The question is, how are you going to resolve this? Are you going to bill the client back, or are you going to share the cost, or are you going to eat that cost yourself? So those are things you need to think about. The next thing you need to do if you're serious about self-dispatching is to plan for the long haul. And here I'm talking literally here, plan for the long haul. The thing here is that, and you want to understand this step 2 ways. Plan for the long haul, with haul meaning the long term, okay? And plan for the long haul meaning that you have to plan for loads that actually take longer to deliver. I want to talk about the first thing. The thing is that I want to talk about the second thing first. So plan for the long haul, with the haul meaning the load. So you have loads that take longer to deliver. Now those loads by nature pay more. Okay, if you have to go out of state, if you do a lot of OTR, those loads are basically providing the revenue in terms of the revenue in terms of revenue per trip, right? So after you chose the kind of revenue model that you want to go with, whether you want to go with RPM, rate per mile, RPH, rate per hour, okay, or RPC, rate per contract. After you chose that, you have to actually see what kind of loads actually pay more. Now, by definition and by default, loads that pay more are loads that usually or send you on the road, send you OTR, or you are transporting, I say, substances that are federally sensitive, things like hazmat, perishables, things that actually ask some kind of refrigeration. So anytime you have loads that require you to have specifics in terms of specifics in your van, they will pay more. So you need to plan for those long hauls. So that's the second definition of the plan for the long haul. Now let's go back to the first definition. So when you plan for the long haul, meaning when you plan for the long term, you need to think about, hey, listen, you want to distance yourself from the day-to-day management of your business and think about, hey, where do I want my business to be 1 year from now? Where do I want my business to be 2 years from now? What are the things I need to do today? Today, not tomorrow, not yesterday, today. What are the things I need to do today to ensure that I have a revenue, consistent revenue in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years? And this kind of a strategic thinking, the thing is that you can't just be in your car while driving and just think about it. You got to go back to the office or in your house. When you have those quiet moments, that's when you actually start thinking about that. You have to think about what are your customers looking for? What are their needs? How can you fill those needs? How can you meet them? Okay, you need to develop a thorough understanding of your sector, and these things take time. You can't just be a new kid on the block and think you know everything on day one. No, it takes time. It takes time to build relationships with customers. It takes time to build relationships with dispatchers, with freight brokers, with a constellation of players in the industry. It takes time. Now, if you have made it so far, I want to reward you by giving you a bonus. And so this bonus is basically, I want to briefly talk about differences between self-dispatch and using a dispatching service. Okay. On top of the long hours and many miles on the road away from home, being successful in the cargo van or a sprinter van industry requires juggling many tasks. I'm sure you have understood that from the conversation I'm about to finish, right? Now, some of this include finding available loads, negotiating with freight providers for the best possible rates, determining which lanes are most profitable and the most efficient routes, deciding which types of freight you want to haul or not haul, scheduling and managing your own agenda or drivers if you have help from other drivers. For example, if you're an owner operator, handling unexpected delays and issues while on the road, managing customer relationships, ensuring compliance with regulations, billing, collections, and paperwork. Okay, and the thing is that cargo van drivers and sprinter van drivers who self-dispatch, they are responsible for all of this and more. Okay, so for people who enjoy planning, have deep industry knowledge and experience working with freight providers, and have time available to manage all aspects of their business, this might not be an issue. However, and this is a big however, if you want assistance with some or all of these tasks, you might consider using a freight dispatcher. This is important to help lighten the administrative load, do all the back office work, all the paperwork. So both options, in our view, and we have actually been dealing with this for more than 20 years. Our team has experience in all the aspects of either self-dispatching or using a dispatching service. Okay, so both options, in our view, have advantages and disadvantages depending on your personal preference and all your personal preferences, but also your level of analytical dexterity. In other words, how analytical are you? How disciplined are you? So the question is using a dispatching service right for you? Well, using a freight dispatching service is great for both busy cargo van drivers, sprinter van drivers, and those still getting established in the industry. In addition to giving you back more time by assisting you with admin tasks, using a freight dispatch service can help you earn more. Because the whole thing here is that freight dispatchers represent your company when negotiating rates on loads, and some can provide strategic recommendations on load strategies. All right, so here it is. This is the end of today's conversation. I was just talking to you about how to do dispatch for yourself. And let me just do a quick recap here. So you need to develop a clear agenda. You need to choose dispatch software that works for you. You need to use mapping software to optimize routes. You need to plan loads. You need to resolve logistical problems quickly. And you need to plan for the long haul, literally. Thank you so much for your attention. I really appreciate it. God bless you. I will see you next time. But until then, remember, stay marvelous.